You're just slacking off in your room, not working.
Stop smiling and telling me that you're working. Don't lie to me.
These are the words my mother-in-law Katie and sister-in-law Elena said to me while I work from home. I'm Daisy, 35 years old, and I work as a designer. I love drawing since I was little. I was in the art club in both middle and high school and graduated from an art university. I've won several awards, and I always wanted to become a painter or work in design. My husband Hank and I worked together at a part-time job during college. Although we went to different universities, we lived close by and often went home together after our shifts. We discovered we liked the same artists and became close. We started dating on the day we went to see a live concert together. He's a generous and kind person. He listens to my whims and I love him, but sometimes his kindness causes him to lose out, which worries me a little. We had a lot of fun during our college days going to live concerts and festivals together. After graduating, Hank got a sales job at a small company and I started working as a designer at a design office. We got married at the age of 25, 3 years after starting our jobs. We have a daughter who is now in elementary school. When I became pregnant with my daughter, I went independent and started working as a freelance designer from home. At first, it was tough to work from home while raising a child, but thankfully, I now have a lot of work. I used to work from early morning till late at night before getting pregnant, so my husband was very supportive of me continuing to work from home. Living with my beloved husband and daughter while doing the job I've always dreamed of has been the greatest happiness for me. When our daughter started elementary school, we built our dream home. We even made a room for me to focus on my work. One night, Elena visited our house late at night. Katie had slipped in the bathroom and injured her leg, and she was in the hospital. She's getting discharged tomorrow, but she might need assistance when walking. I'm worried, so I'm moving in here. Can you help me out? My father-in-law passed away 5 years ago, and Katie and Elena have been living together. Elena works at a factory with a few days off and has night shifts. Katie used to work at a food factory until her retirement. I understood their concerns about Katie being alone for long periods, but I couldn't believe my sister-in-law was suggesting they move in with us. Actually, I don't get along well with either of them. It started when we went to greet them for our marriage. When I mentioned that I work as a designer, Katie said,
"It must be nice to draw pictures and get paid. Sounds easy."
My sister-in-law chimed in. I'm jealous that you get to doodle and make money. I, who had been proud of my job, retorted, It's not a doodle. That's disrespectful to all designers. I always rack my brain to come up with the best design. Please take that back. The atmosphere turned sour. My father-in-law, who had worked in an advertising company, understood the job of a designer and defended me. My husband, Hank, also defended me wholeheartedly. Thanks to them, we managed to get through the situation, but I still haven't forgiven them for their comments. Hank's family has very strong-willed women, and the men might be more easygoing. Since I'm also strong-willed, maybe that's why I got along well with Hank. I visited my in-laws' house several times since then. Each time, Katie and Elena made snide remarks, but I always respond in kind. I can't imagine living with them. This time, Elena had a rather arrogant attitude. You're home. You must have free time on your hands. No, I don't. I have to work and take care of the kids. The atmosphere was tense, but my husband said,
Can you give us some time to think? Mom hasn't been discharged yet, and we don't know how much assistance she'll need. Why don't we wait and see? I'll go with her if she wants to go shopping or go out.
Although Elena seemed dissatisfied, she left after hearing those words. After she left, I told my husband, We don't get along well, so we can't live together.
Of course I know that,
he replied, but he seemed a bit worried about his mother. However, that weekend while my husband, daughter, and I were having lunch, the doorbell rang. It was Katie and Elena carrying large bags. My husband and I went to the entrance and Elena smiled and said, We're moving in today. Looking at the car parked in front of the house, it was filled with their belongings. What's going on? I asked, and she replied, you just postponed making a decision. We're just trying to leave everything to me. I thought you wouldn't make up your mind unless we did this."
Hearing that, my husband said, "Wait, sis. This house was built for the three of us. Daisy has a job too. We can't just do things without asking." But she insisted.
"We've already moved out of our old place. We have no choice but to live here."
"What? Why would you do that?" As I tried to retort, my mother-in-law interrupted. "Can you let me sit down? My leg hurts. It's your job to take care of me. Are you trying to kick us out?" My usually mild-mannered husband was angry, but he looked troubled when they mentioned her leg injury and having no home. Amid the heavy atmosphere, our daughter came to the entrance and cried.
"Mom and Dad look troubled. Why are you and Auntie Elena doing something mean?"
I hugged my daughter and apologized. Seeing that, my husband said, "Put your bags in the living room for now. It's not good for her to see us fighting. You can stay for a few days and then we'll think about it. Daisy, is that okay?" Well, I was unhappy, but I didn't want to upset my daughter, so I had no choice but to accept. Hearing our conversation, the two of them started carrying their bags. Katie was dragging her leg and seemed to have difficulty walking. From that day on, my days of hell began. My usual routine was to send my daughter to school, finish housework, and then start working. Hank and Elena went to their jobs, leaving Katie and me alone. "I'm going to work now," I told her before retreating to my workroom. However, that didn't mean she would let me concentrate on my work. At first, when I left my room to go to the bathroom or get a drink, she would say things like, "Daisy, can you make me some tea? Daisy, when are you making lunch? I don't want anything simple." I had anticipated this, so I managed to dodge her request by saying, "Sure, here's your tea. I prepared lunch this morning. Don't worry, it's not something simple." She seemed to look a bit frustrated. One day, I was in my workroom having a remote meeting. I didn't notice because I was wearing headphones, but suddenly, Katie started yelling right behind me. "I've been calling you over and over. Stop ignoring me while you're having a fun conversation." I was surprised and let out a gasp, not knowing when she had entered the room. The camera and microphone were on, so the client heard everything. They laughed, and I felt extremely embarrassed. It was a long-time client, so it worked out somehow, but it could have been a disaster with other clients. I got her out of the room, finished the meeting, and went to see her. "Katie, please, I'm working. Don't come into my room like that." "It's your fault for not coming when I called you." I was dumbfounded and quickly stopped arguing. Thinking it was pointless to say anything to her, I called a contractor that day to put a lock on my workroom door. That night, when my husband came home from work, I said, "I don't think I can handle this. I can't have my work disrupted." "If you've put a lock on the door, it should be fine. She's having trouble walking, so I can't just kick her out." He seemed decisive. I understood what Hank meant, so I thought we needed to come up with some measures. To avoid worrying our daughter, we acted normal when we all ate together. There were times when Katie made sarcastic remarks, but I held back from responding in front of my daughter. Then, on the day of my daughter's school event, I took the day off from work and went to the school in the afternoon. Since Elena was off that day at home, I asked her to take care of Katie and left the house. In the evening, the school event ended successfully, and when my daughter and I returned home, all my work materials, including my computer and documents, were in the living room. What the hell is this? When I asked Katie and Elena about it, my sister-in-law replied with a nonsensical explanation.
"Well, I work night shifts sometimes, and our schedules don't match, so I wanted us to have separate rooms."
I cut her off. "I didn't ask for that. What is this? These are my work tools, right?" Elena sneered.
"You're just slacking off in that room, pretending to work, right? If we're going to use a room for fun, it should be mine. You have a bedroom too, and since you put a lock on it, my privacy is protected." I had been locking the workroom door while I was inside to prevent my mother-in-law from entering during work, but I hadn't been locking it when I went out. I greatly regretted letting my guard down, not expecting her to do such a thing. Along with my regret, the sound of my anger boiling over toward Kate and Elena, who had done as they pleased, could be heard. Don't mess with me. These are my important work tools. Do you know how much money I make with these?
What a pompous thing to say. I heard from Mom that you're lying about working. You're just laughing and talking with someone, right?
I was having a meeting then. There are times when we are laughing during meetings, right?
I never laugh during factory meetings. You're just lying.
Elena, perhaps heated up, grabbed my hand. With my blood boiling, I raised my voice, shook off her hand, and yelled back. I felt like we were on the verge of a physical fight. Then Katie, who had been sitting on the sofa complaining, ran over to us.
Stop it! Daisy is the one at fault. She works at night and has a hard time. She's always exhausted when she comes back from her standing job. Compared to that, you're just sitting in front of your computer laughing. What kind of work is that? Stop lying already.
Huh? By the way, Katie, you just ran, didn't you? Are you lying about your bad leg?
Oh, you're awful.
Accusing an old woman with a bad leg of lying?
Just because you don't want your own lies to be exposed.
The fact that you could run is proof. Please rent a house immediately and go back to living together. Unable to hold back, I said what I had been wanting to say but had been enduring. Hearing that, Elena retorted.
What are you saying? Talking about working from home like you're so important? Remote work is for recluses. Pack your stuff and leave.
Katie continued.
That's right. It's not us. You should be the one to leave.
Then we heard our daughter's crying voice. I got too excited and was completely absorbed in the argument. My daughter had been crying the whole time. Seeing her, I came to my senses. Fine, I understand. All the furniture is mine and I'll sell the house. Goodbye.
Huh? What do you mean, yours? It's Hank's, right?
I just ignored her, packed my things, and went back to my parents' house. I apologized to my daughter a lot. As I apologized, tears welled up in my eyes. I emailed Hank about today's events and my return to my parents' home. That night, he came to apologize after work.
I'm sorry about my mom and sister. Please come back.
I can't. I've reached my limit. They will never leave. I'm already looking for a place to move, and I'm selling the house. I'll contact you again when we have a moving date and a new house. With that, I sent my husband home. In fact, his income was so low that it was impossible for the three of us to live together. I had suggested he change jobs many times, but he stubbornly refused, saying the company wouldn't run without him. So I became independent. I had been working while raising my daughter since she was born. Thanks to that, we were able to buy a house. We paid for living expenses from my husband's salary, but the house, car, and furniture were all purchased with my earnings. The house was in my name because I earned several times more than he did. I loved my job as a designer, and it was fine. I thought it was okay if he didn't want to change jobs. There were no complaints while the three of us lived together. I think my husband was also at fault for not clearly refusing to live with his mother and sister. I want to continue living with Hank, but living with his mother and sister is absolutely impossible. From that day on, I did everything I could to sell the house and find a new one. In the meantime, Hank told his mother and sister to leave, but they refused to listen. They seemed to be enjoying themselves in the house as if it were their own. Then the moving date was set. The arrangements for selling the house were also in place. We chose a moving plan where the movers would help pack, and I told that to Hank. It was a last-minute booking, so it was on a weekday. I wanted him to be there too, but he had to work. After sending my daughter to school, I mustered my energy and went to the house with the movers. When we entered the house, Katie was there alone, surprised by the large number of cardboard boxes being brought in. As we silently began our work, she said,
"What are you doing? This is our house. Stop moving out without permission."
"This is my house, so there's no problem. Please, continue." She kept yelling, but the moving work proceeded smoothly. Finally, we left behind just the small amount of belongings Katie and Elena had brought, and also Katie, and the move was completed. I felt refreshed. After that, it seems my husband received an onslaught of calls from Elena and Katie. That night, we went to the house together and told Elena our future plans at the entrance. This house is already set to be put up for sale. A cleaning service is coming in a week. Please move out by then.
We didn't agree to that. This is our family's house. We don't even understand why you moved today. Hank, tell this woman something.
I tried to tell you many times, sis, but you didn't listen. Daisy says she can't live with you anymore.
How can you say that when our mother has a bad leg? You were supposed to have resolved this by leaving. Hank, shouldn't you divorce this mean wife?
I couldn't forgive my sister-in-law for saying such selfish things. Divorce isn't something she gets to decide. I've been doing my best to take care of Katie while working and raising our child. You're the one who came and messed up my workspace, right? As I said before, this house is under my name. I have the right to decide. So I'm telling you to leave. Hearing those words, Katie, who must have been in the living room, ran to the entrance.
What's with that attitude?
My husband looked surprised.
Huh? Mom, you just ran here. Was that whole bad leg thing a lie?
As my husband said that, Katie looked flustered and pretended to be in pain, but he ignored her and continued speaking.
It's embarrassing as a man, but since my earnings are low, this house is under Daisy's name. Despite having to care for our child, she worked tirelessly from home. Thanks to her unwavering dedication, I have my job. I can't forgive you and Elena for going as far as lying to interfere with her work. I'll help you find a place too, so please leave.
Hearing my husband's words, Katie and Elena remained silent with their heads down.
I'm really sorry. I knew you didn't like the idea, but I couldn't say anything strongly because I was worried about my mom's bad leg. I'm sorry. Also, I've decided to change jobs.
Since then, Katie and Elena seem to have found a small place to live together. I haven't met them since, but when Hank went to help them move, they were apparently arguing the entire time. It was true that my mother-in-law had fallen and been hospitalized, but she could walk normally after a few days and had hidden this fact to avoid being kicked out. She confessed this to Hank. In our new house, my daughter, Hank, and I were able to return to a happy life. Our daughter, who had been a bit down during the time we lived together, has regained her energy and is now at ease. Hank has started job hunting and is likely to find a much higher paying job than before. My work is going as smoothly as ever. We're both saving money and talking about buying an even better house than before.